Alright, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at one of the weirdest vehicles that we have ever received in the game, and that would be the VT1-2. Now, this thing has dual Leopard 2K main cannons, one of which is an auto-loading cannon, the other one isn't. Now, on paper, this thing looks incredible. It is extremely maneuverable, very fast, and 10 km per hour top speed. Reverse is 44 km per hour, the maneuverability is also ridiculously good. It does handle like the STRV-103C, it does steer like the cheese wedge tank. Obviously it has dual 120mm main cannons, basically the same cannon that we see on the Leopard 2K. However, the main issue with this vehicle is the fact that you are unable to currently aim with the secondary cannon, which means that you only have one cannon that's fully functional. Now I know it's been said that that's a bug and it will be fixed probably, so I'll come back to the vehicle once it's fixed, but when we go and look at the armor inspection window, we see that this thing has basically zero armor. Ironically, the thickest part of the vehicle is the cannon itself and the tracks, so yeah. Overall, literally zero armor, and machine gun fire, autocannon machine gun fire will easily cut through the vehicle, and the crew is literally in front of the vehicle, so any shell that hits the front basically will disable the vehicle completely. Which means that you are going to have to use this vehicle primarily as a sniper. Now this thing can do hull down, and I just hope that the bug is fixed as quick as possible, because I would love to see how much firepower this thing can do once both of the main cannons can actually aim properly. But overall, on paper, this thing does seem very interesting, and currently definitely a very odd vehicle. Now, speaking of an odd vehicle, this is a tier 7 tank with a tier 9 cannon. So this is able to pretty much lol pan anything in the tier, and its shell will cut through any tank that you are aiming at. Now you might be wondering, well, okay, how is that balanced? Well, no armor, and the secondary cannon currently doesn't work. So yeah, you technically have only one cannon, and you have to fire the secondary cannon, which I will actually do in this video, because if you don't fire the secondary cannon, you can't just wait for the first primary cannon to reload. You actually have to fire the secondary. So once I fire the primary, I immediately fire the secondary, just so that I can get the primary cannon to actually fire again. That way I can avoid uncomfortable situations where I expect the primary to fire but it doesn't. In any case, let's see how... Actually, my apologies. Let me first show you the shells that you get. So you have HE-ATFS and dual APFS-DS ammo. Now the HE-ATFS seems to be penetrating a little bit more, but I just decided, you know what, I'll just use AP ammo. It is more reliable, so I decided, you know, I'll use it more than the HE-ATFS ammo. So let's take this thing for a ride. Now, as I mentioned before, this vehicle does handle like the STRV-103C. Basically the cheese wedge controls on this vehicle. Just the difference, this doesn't have any armor, and it is stupidly fast. Now the maneuverability of this thing is just ridiculous. It feels like I don't know how to explain the feel on this vehicle. It does have a very odd feeling to it when you're driving it around. The main shell, though, the main cannon, is very strong, very powerful, as expected, and it is able to lol pen any vehicle that you're basically looking at here. And how does this vehicle actually work? Well, you have to play it campy. You just have to. You can't be running around with this vehicle, and you can't use it like an ordinary vehicle, like an ordinary tank, because it isn't. a ordinary tank. It is classified as a tank destroyer in the game, and the firepower on this thing will be pretty crazy once the secondary cannon becomes useful. You know, I don't really need although a secondary view option would be great. I would actually prefer more to have the secondary gun sight on the aim, so that I know where the cannon is looking at. That's the main issue with this vehicle currently. However, it does have the potential to be a very lethal vehicle because of its potential firepower that it can deliver. Which is, honestly, I think at the moment this might very well be the first dual big cannon vehicle that we have received in the game. Now, I know there are some prototype vehicles that with dual cannons, but this thing legitimately has like dual cannons, so that's the thing about the VT1-2. Now I know there is a different variant of the vehicle that has like better armor, and I hope that that variant of the vehicle is introduced next, the VT with better armor. That would be a very interesting vehicle to use. And that vehicle will probably be tier 9 or tier 8, because honestly it would be way too much for that thing to be in tier 7. I mean, honestly, even this thing being in tier 7 is like, I feel like it's a little bit funny because of the cannons that it's using. But you know, at the same time, this thing isn't really all that impossible to destroy. I mean, any high explosive shell, any bomb, any ATGM, anything really is able to punch through the armor on this vehicle. So it is definitely a very, very, very paper tank. Literally zero armor on this vehicle. But I'm personally okay with having zero armor. It's just that the second cannon isn't really useful, and you could see the second cannon just not working there. So I have to basically use the primary one, or I guess nothing works. Great. What exactly what I just needed? There it is. Okay, finally it works. Actually, no, someone else did. Did they just fire like a couple ghost shells there? That would be pretty annoying if that's the case. That's a ghost shell? Are you kidding me? Are you like is this the game just joking right now? I saw the shell fly right in the turret of that vehicle and it didn't do anything. Isn't that just lovely? I should have just left the match there, but I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. Oh well. This is pretty much what you can currently expect from the VT1. Although I will definitely be driving this vehicle once it's fixed, once the secondary cannon is actually useful, because I really want to see what this thing can actually pull off, because it does have the potential to have some ridiculous firepower, and it will be very interesting to see how it will actually pull it off once it actually works properly. A hold down would work. You just need to find a good position for it, and the gun depression is really good on this thing, surprisingly. You wouldn't expect this thing to have a good gun depression. Well, it does have good gun depression. It's a very interesting vehicle in general, but unfortunately it's kind of limited by the current ongoing bug with the vehicle, which is a waste of ammo really. Or, you know, add a secondary firing button for tanks with dual cannon systems. That also could potentially be a thing. I don't know why this thing doesn't have a secondary cannon button. I know some tanks do have a secondary firing button, but I guess it's because it doesn't classify the second cannon as a secondary cannon. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I do actually. I think I do have fun with this vehicle. It's very interesting. It is very odd to drive this thing. It's so fast and so maneuverable. It's insane. I think this might very well be the most maneuverable tier 8, tier 7 vehicle in the game. This thing just flies. How maneuverable it is. Very maneuverable. Extremely maneuverable because of its non-existent armor and very strong engine. Oh well, we are nearing the end. That was a good battle actually. So that would be it for the VT1-2. This is a very interesting vehicle that I'll definitely be playing more in the future. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe. As always, I'll see you next time.